Good morning,
Ooh.
folks. Welcome to Coffee with Artists. My name is Rachel Wilkins. I am the co-founder of Conception Arts and your host here at the Coffee with Artists show. Delighted this morning. I am joined by one of the most fierce, wonderful humans that we know, Rae Ripple. Rae, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So before we go any further, tell us about what you are cradling in your arms.
Oh,
What
okay.
you can give birth to a tiny child.
I know it looks like I'm just cradling a shirt.
Uh,
So my friend Rochelle found this little baby bird on the sidewalk, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, Rae, what do I do with it?" And I was like, "I've done this before. Let's just bring it on over here." And so I've been taking care of this like 2 day old, 3 day old little bird. I don't know what kind of bird it is yet because it doesn't have any little feathers, but I was up every hour last night feeding it dog food. So, but you know what? He went from the color purple to breathing bad, and then like he got his color back, and now he's eating every hour. He even started chirping last night, so we might have saved him. So we'll see. We'll see.
So let's preface this by saying that you have a menagerie of animals in your home, right? What do you have?
Yes. So we got a cat. His name is Lucy. I have a Australian Shepherd, and then our newest addition is an Aussie. He was supposed to be an Aussie Corgi mix, but when I took him to the vet, she was like, "Honey, he's an Aussie Great Pyrenees mix."
Oh God, that's a bit of a
so
different.
he's so he's massive.
Wow.
So I got him, and then we have a bearded dragon named Dixon.
So I don't need to ask why your friend decided to bring the bird to you.
Because I've already taken care of one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're such
So
a maternal, you're such a motherly spirit. That
I
kind
just love
of
animals. I love just I'm a fixer. I want to fix everything and like just try to help everybody, even little innocent little birdies. I just didn't want them to die.
it's so fitting that we're starting the session off with you talking about how much you are taking care of something and that those maternal instincts because folks you're in for quite a ride this morning with Rae's story. It is intense. We are gonna kind of let Rae take the lead with her the story about her background because it really is just a survivor story and a half. But before we do dive into that stuff, tell us where you are, what type of work it is that you do, what where you are physically right now in your shop, and kind of how you ended up back there.
Well, I'm in Big Spring, Texas. I'm originally from Dallas Fort Worth area. I've been living out in Big Spring, oh gosh, for forever. And then yeah, I just kind of stayed. This has been the only place that's like really felt like home, and so I've always just stayed. So right now, this is my shop, and so I'm a metal artist slash sculptor, but I also paint and do other stuff too, and like mess with wood a little bit here and there and some other stuff. So, but this is what I do full time.
And you have this beautiful, huge shop right on your property, right? So it's just a little
Yes.
small commute each morning to get there.
Like
Amazing.
sometimes I even walk out here in my pajamas and I'll just like be drinking coffee and like just tinkering with stuff in here. And then before I know it, I'm like deep in a build in my pajamas. And then everybody just kind of like, I have all the shop doors open. So all my neighbors come in and people come in and say hi or whatever. And so I'm out here covered in like black suet in my pajamas, drinking coffee, like with this sculpture over here. It's kind of funny, but
That's awesome. Do you find that what does your creative practice look like until did we lose you? Oh, there you are. What does your creative practice look like?
hang on. Okay, are you there?
Are we back? Okay, we're good.
Can you hear me though?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you still
I
hear
don't
me?
know why I can't hear you. Hang on. I don't know what happened.
Hmm. Let me try and remove you.
Okay.
Try now. How's that?
What about now?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hang on. Let's try this again. Okay. You there?
Yep.
I don't know why I can't hear you, but you can hear me though, right?
I can hear you. Let me try one more thing. Let me see if I remove you from the stream. Let's see.
What about now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I still can't hear you though. I can see your mouth moving, but I can't hear you.
Huh. Sorry, folks. Bear with us one
Sorry,
second.
guys. I don't know what happened. It just like went crazy on me.
Rae, let's run. I'm going to call your number and we'll run the audio.
I think, well, I'm on my cell phone, so I think if you call me, it's going to knock out the video.
Okay.
Do you want to try?
Let's try this.
I don't know what to do.
Can you hear me now, Rae? No.
There we go. Now I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, we're back.
Okay. You can hear me though, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, we're back.
It's a little crackly. You know what? It wouldn't be a live stream without a tech hiccup, so we made it happen.
Let me try to put my headphones back in and see if that helps.
Sure. How's that?
Should be connecting.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, that's good. As long as you can hear me.
Yeah.
I can hear.
All right.
Okay, is that better?
Yep. All right.
Yes. So, okay, there we go. Now I can hear you. We're back.
We're back in business. So we were talking about your daily practice. So what does it look like for you? Do you find that you're somebody that, gets up, goes to work, hits that studio no matter what? Or are you somebody who waits for that inspiration and that, idea to come to you?
Oh no, I'm in here every single day. Every once in a while I get like tired. Like my body is just worn out because metal work is like super rough on your body. And so there's sometimes that I'm just like, man, I'm just so tired. Like I just stay inside. I just work on the house or hang out with the kids or like do just normal house stuff, catch up on like errands and stuff. I stay my time off, but then I end up like installing those days or, stuff like that. So I still end up working no matter what, but I've been trying to take some dedicated time off. So like on the weekends, like now, like I've tried to take at least one full day off and I'll go ride my Harley. I'll hang out with the kids. I'll just like, try to enjoy life a little more versus being in the studio every single day.
When you talk about metal work being very intense.
I lost you again.
You did?
I can't hear you anymore. But you're in my headphones, which is weird because we just had audio.
You can hear me now?
Try it again. See if it connects. Okay, try talking now.
Can you hear me?
No, nope. Nothing.
All right, I'm gonna end.
You can hear me though, right?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
I can't hear you though. It's weird.
Can folks hear us on the stream? Can you let us know in the live stream in the chat if you are hearing both of us?
Turn my phone up.
Let's see.
Why it's doing that?
I have no idea.
I don't think it's my headphones.
Yep.
Try talking now.
Somebody said use sign language. Can you hear us both on the feed, folks? If you could let us know. Yeah,
I still can't hear you.
They can hear both of us.
You can hear me though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So weird.
This is so weird. So Rae can't hear me currently. So let's think how we're going to do this. Let me try one more thing.
Okay, try talking now.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, we're back. I don't know why the audio keeps kicking. We were just talking about this too.
I know. We were just okay, folks. We apologize for this chaos this morning, but we were just saying before we jumped on that there shouldn't be any problems with audio. This sounds great. So, all right. So let's regroup. So I'm going to ask you a question that you probably have a very long answer to. So hopefully we don't have any audio here. For those that don't know your backstory, take us on that journey. You were homeless. you lived on the streets. Tell us that story of how just your early days, your coming of age story.
Well, I ran away from home whenever I was 14. And so I kind of bounced and couch surfed and like just grew up on the streets. And I had my daughter, I got pregnant with my daughter whenever I was 17. And even then, like, we kind of had a place to stay, crash a little bit here and there whenever I was pregnant. And then after I had her, I was told to leave. And so me and her just kind of were still homeless too. We were living in my truck. I was working at a home improvement store at the time and just couldn't make ends meet. And I called my mom for help, which is crazy because it was just Mother's Day. And it hit me super hard this Mother's Day for some reason that I didn't have a mom. And so I called her, and that was pretty much one of the last times I talked to her. And she told me to prostitute myself to get me off the streets so she can help me. And so instead, I did the next best thing. I started stripping. And even though I don't commend like anybody do that by any means, but I pretty much was a product of my environment and had nothing left else to do. And so that's what I did. And just slowly kind of got us to where we are now. And like later, 5 years later, of course, after Chloe was born, I fell into a relationship with a guy, got pregnant, and I realized I was in this cycle that I was trying to pull myself out of. And now I'm here. I broke it. I wanted to get away from all that, get the kids away from that. And so now I'm here.
So you shared with me that, there is some crackling there, Rae. I'm not sure what it is on your end.
Yeah, a little bit, but I can still hear you.
Okay, good. You shared with me once that you had, you left home because your mother was in active addiction. Can you tell us what that experience was like? I mean, you were pretty much a child when you left home. How did life on the street seem like a better option? What kind of situation were you dealing with at home?
Well, both of my parents being drug addicts, I was stuck in this this situation with constantly watching them overdose themselves on drugs or be, high all the time. And, they were very abusive and all of that kind of stuff. So I like being on the streets to me, even though I had, that like being on the streets to me seemed like so much safer, even though it wasn't. It was still extremely dangerous, but it was me getting away from that, and that's all I knew how to do. That's the only thing I knew what to do was to just leave. And so, I mean, it was pretty sketchy at sometimes, and then sometimes it was fun. But I mean, I still went to high school. I still graduated. Once I was able to get a job, I got a job. I know before I was even legal to work, I was picking up trash in a parking lot at Chicken Express, and then he finally gave me a job. And so it just it eventually evolved into something better, but it just took time. But I had to make that initial decision to like just go, because something was better than what this was, and I didn't want to be a part of this anymore. So
I mean, it's just such a testament to your spirit and your determination that as a kid who was dealing with this crazy, situation, that you were still had the wherewithal to take yourself to school. Like, what was that about? How did you have that desire?
School had food, and anybody knows me knows I'm food motivated. You can get me to do anything with some donuts, like for real, any day of the week. But they had food, and that was the only time I could eat during the week was when I was at school. And I was always terrified that they would try to kick me out or, expel me or make me leave, because I didn't have I had a couple of friends' parents that would pretend to be my guardian to get me registered for school. And then after that, I was on my own. And so I always tried to do the best I could with my grades and, just being, even though I was a little jerk, we all are as teenagers. I had no parental supervision. So of course I was a little, jerk teenager, but they had food. And so I knew when I went to school in the mornings, I was getting fed breakfast. Whenever it was lunchtime, I got lunch. And then I always just collected all my friends' leftovers and shoved it in my backpack. And that's what I would eat for dinner. And then on the weekends, like I ran out. And so like at that point, like I was just ready for Monday again. So during the summers and holidays were the worst. I didn't really get to eat very much then, unless I was at a friend's house and I raided their refrigerator, like after they went to sleep or whatever. But like food motivated me to go to school, and food motivated me to graduate. So if it wasn't for that, then I probably wouldn't even have graduated.
Where did you sleep at night? How did you find, comfort, a place to be safe at night as a young woman on the streets?
Well, I slept a little bit of everywhere. So sometimes there was a gas station that had restrooms on the outside, and they never kept them locked. So sometimes I would sleep in there. I would couch surf a lot. And then there was this tunnel outside of Lockheed Martin on government property, and I would sleep in that little tunnel sometimes too. So I kind of went a little bit of everywhere. There was even times too that I slept at the school. So it was just where I ended up that night, and also kind of where I went, I guess too. Like if I hung out with like my friends and went skating after school, if I was on one side of town, I would just find somewhere safe over there. Or if I was, I just kind of bounced around from place to place. But I had like these set places that I would go that I knew for sure they were safe. And until like eventually I got kicked out. But the little tunnel that was at Lockheed Martin, I had to climb a fence to get to it, and there was no people around. So nobody would ever know I was there. So that's where I went most of the time.
Were there any heroes along the way, or any folks that really, left a mark on you, or able to you on your journey that you remember?
Yeah, I had a couple of teachers that did the best that they could. They would like give me shoes or give me things that I might need, and that they saw that I needed. I didn't really ask for anything, but they would make sure that I ate during the day. They'd give me some of their leftovers, things like that. But teachers can only do so much because of policies and things like that. And so there's only so many times you can call CPS too, And I think a lot of them too didn't want me stuck in foster care, becoming a part of the system. And so they helped the best that they could. And then I had some friends' moms that helped a lot too, that would like take me in and let me shower or sleep on their couch or spend the night or whatever. And then there was a couple of police officers too that when my dad would get arrested, they knew me because my dad would get arrested all the time. And so there was a couple of them that would like see me out and about and scoop me up, like, what are you doing over here? You're not supposed to be over here. And then ask me if I've eaten and give me $10 and tell me not to spend it on weed. So like there was little moments where these little people like helped me along the way, which probably molded me to who I am today. So if it wasn't for them, like I probably wouldn't have gotten near as far as what I did. But I wish I could remember some of the police officers' names that helped me, but I can't remember their names for nothing. I'm sure like I dug deep into like the police department where I'm from, then I could probably figure out who it is. And I keep in touch with some of the teachers too, like my choir teacher. Me and her message every once in a while back and forth on Facebook. We had a really long conversation one time, and she was like, yo, if I would have known like it was as bad as what it was, I would have done something. I wouldn't have cared. I would have just done something more. But she didn't really know. And I kind of kept it under wraps because I was terrified of like being like just scooped up or taken away or whatever. And so I kept a lot of things too, like hush hush. A lot of my friends knew, but that was it.
How did you feel during those times? I mean, it sounds like you were just trying to survive most of the time, like very basic human needs like food and shelter. But how are you feeling? What did you think your future would look like?
I honestly, like, I think I got scared a few times, but I think I was more just like liberated. I felt free. Like, I didn't feel like I was in this prison anymore. Like, I felt like I was just like, this is it. This is what my life is going to be. Like, I don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to live that life. And so, like, I don't know. I felt just free. Like, I felt like something was better. My life was going to get better, even though it wasn't. I mean, I still battled depression, and all of those kind of things. So I partied a lot with my friends on the weekends because it gave me a place to crash too, because after the party everybody would crash. And so I partied a lot with my friends on the weekends, and I found myself suppressing the depression and anxiety and things that I had from what I was dealing with that my parents had done to me. And like I was suppressing it for so long. It eventually caught up to me, but that was like my way out. And so I didn't realize until I got older, until I was about 17 when I realized that like maybe I wasn't liberated, maybe it wasn't free. I was still kind of in this prison, and I needed to do something different. And it wasn't until I found out I was pregnant with Chloe that I realized that I was kind of still in this cycle, this like I was turning into them pretty much is what it was. And so when I got pregnant with her is when everything changed. Everything changed. I had to like be better. I had to be somebody. I couldn't live like this anymore. I needed to survive. I needed to live because now I have another life in my hands. And so that's what I did.
And you have two beautiful children today, which I can't believe how old they are. I just saw photographs of them. I'm thinking of them.
They're getting so big too.
Yeah, they're like bigger than you now. Chloe is.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how.
The last time you saw her was whenever we had the art show. I think it was in Houston, right?
It was in
and
Houston.
she was so tiny.
She was probably here on me. She was little.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. So you were on the streets for a while as a mother with this newborn baby, and you were still a kid yourself. Really, were you 17 when you met Chloe?
Do what?
Were you 17? You were still a relatively young person yourself when you had a child.
Yeah, I was 17 when I got pregnant with Chloe, and I was 18 whenever I gave birth to her. And so I was like a baby raising a baby. Baby raising a baby. I don't know how I did it. I still don't know how I do it. But
and you were living on the streets, right, with baby.
Yeah, so after she was born, we were told we needed to leave, and so we ended up in my truck, and we were living in my 1979 F-150 at the time, and so it had this nifty little bench seat, and that's where we slept, and that's where we were at. That's our home. And I didn't make much money because I made minimum wage at that little home improvement store. So all of my money went to paying people to watch Chloe so I could work, and a little bit of food here and there, and mainly food for her. And so I had to do something. And I remember we sometimes slept in this laundromat that was in the middle of town, and because it was warm and it was open 24 hours at the time. So we could go in there really late at night. And so I used a payphone that was on the wall, called my mom and asked her for help. And that's when she told me that you just need to do what I do, prostitute yourself, get yourself out of it. And I can't help you. And that was it. And I just sat there and cried, thinking gosh, if the state of Texas found out that I'm here right now in a laundromat at 2:00 in the morning with a little baby, they're going to take her from me, And so I had to do something, and so that's what I did. Because if they would have taken it from me, if they would have taken it, my life would have been over. Mm-hmm. Everything would have been over. I would have gave up on everything, there's no telling what would have happened.
It's just harrowing to even think of you. So tell us where in the you discovered art.
Do what?
Where you discovered a passion for the art.
So I've always kind of tinkered with drawing and stuff like that. But I didn't really start discovering that I was a creative until I got really heavy into making cakes. So I used to make these huge cakes. I made it was my side hustle, and I made some money off of it, but not really. I put more money into the cake than I got back, and so eventually I quit making them. And this was back whenever cakes were not that big of a deal like they are now. And so I started, I guess that's kind of where my creative side came out, and then I've just painted and painted and painted. And the metal kind of came in by accident too. And somebody brought me a piece of sheet metal and was like, yo, can you paint something for my ranch on this? And I was like, sure. And so I did. And then that kind of led to, hey, can you do me one too? And then I started cutting it out with tin snips and like riveting it together and creating these like really cool abstract pieces with sheet metal. And then kind of wanted to take it to the next level after that. And so I made the dress, which you got to see, but I made the dress and I made that in my living room. And that's like, was like, yo, I need to weld, because if I could weld, I can make this stuff a whole lot faster. So, yeah, but bigger and better and all this other stuff. And so I, like enrolled in some classes, but it just wasn't working out. And so I had a friend who had a little shop here in town, and that's where I took my truck to fix it, because my truck at the time that I had was like a piece of junk and it always broke down like every week. And so I would take it to his shop and fix it, and he was fabricating on this like race truck that he had, and I was like, yo, you should let me try that. And he was like, have you done it before? And by this time I'd already like binge watched every YouTube video you could watch that was online. And it was back when women welders were not really a thing. And so I was like, sure, I'm an expert at this. I could do this, you know? And so that's what started it. So I think I've always kind of had this like creative mind, but I think when you find yourself in like this really dark place, it kind of it brings it out of you a whole lot more than just chilling like in your living room. Like, yeah, I feel like painting this. Some people are like that, some people can, but like me, it takes like, I have to find myself in this dark place. Like there's a saying, you create the best art when you're in love or when you're in like a tragedy. And it's the same, like that's exactly how my art works. I'm either in love and like love life and create this amazing stuff, or it's a tragedy and like I'm depressed and I go into this dark hole and people have to like crawl me back out of that space in order to create. It's kind of crazy.
So there's a lot to unpack there. But one of the things that I'm thinking about, the dress particularly, for anybody who hasn't seen the dress, is this delicate, beautiful looking dress until you get up close, and it's jagged and there's these harsh edges and it's sharp to the touch, right? I think we've talked about some of the injuries that you've had.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how do you bridge that idea of femininity with this harsh and unforgiving material? What is it that makes you want to create these feminine subjects?
I think it's because I relate to metal a lot. I feel like I kind of am like that. Like I'm really hard on the surface, but it doesn't take very much oxidation or weather or heat or whatever to bend and break me and turn me into whatever, you know? And so the dress kind of symbolizes that about my life. Is like I had this harsh background and all of this stuff happened, but I had no way to like to close that chapter of my life, which is crazy because I still deal with some of it today. But like I needed to close that. I needed closure, and I could never get closure from like the people I was supposed to get closure from. And so each piece of that dress was just like something I'd gone through, and it was closing that chapter, and I was going to let it go. And before I knew it, that's exactly what I came up with, was a dress. It's just, and I like 6 months of building, and it started with a sketch that I had a dream about, and I put it in my nightstand. It stayed in there for like forever until I finally got the first piece of the dress, which was a mannequin. And then from there, it just like all this metal kind of trickled in little by little, and I just built it little by little. But after 6 months, it was just, I sat back in my living room, because I built it in my living room, and was like, wow, it's done. And so it kind of was like this weight had been lifted off my chest. And I don't know, I think that's kind of where the feminism, like the feminine part of my art came in, was through that dress. And it kind of just stuck over all these years and other stuff, which is kind of crazy how it worked out that way. We kind of have our own little style as artists, I think, and that's kind of like what my little style is.
Mm. And I think it does speak a lot to your personality, because you know you are you bridge that kind of femininity, but also the strong ass woman mentality as well. When I think about some of the things that you've done just since I've known you, probably 8 to 10 years, you have become an EMT. You became
Yes.
a firefighter.
Yes.
You ride Harley Davidson. You
Yes.
were a pickup, not a pickup truck. Tell us about the job that
Tow
you
truck
had.
driver.
What was it?
Tow truck driver.
So tell us about the career choices into these, areas where it's not necessarily societally expected that you would see a woman. And I'm not saying I agree with that, but tell us about that journey. What was it that led you into those different paths?
Well, I think just initially, like, I'm not a feminist by any means, but like women, we have to like go to college, or like we have to like, in order to be something great, and this was what I thought you used to think, but in order to be something great, you had to go to college and spend all this money to get all these degrees, and eventually you would get kind of noticed and you would get into a position where you could possibly make, a little less than what a man would make. But like I said, I'm not a feminist by any means. And so, but I never got that opportunity to just go spend a ton of money, go to college, get all these degrees, even though I was a college student. But my college degree was coming very slowly because I had two little babies at home. And so I can only do so much school on top of work full time, because I worked at a restaurant at the time. And I think I just got to the point where I was so tired of working my ass off for nothing, for literally living paycheck to before paycheck. I was tired of my electricity getting turned off. I was tired of, struggling. I was tired of being on government assistance. Like, I was tired of all of that kind of stuff. And so I had a customer that came in. I was a full-time student at the time too, working at a little restaurant here in town. And he was a tow truck driver. And he was telling me something about them hiring. And this is kind of what initially started this. And I was still kind of tinkering with welding at the time. And he was like, yeah, we're hiring, da 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 da. I was like, I could do that. And he was like, you can? And I was like, yeah, definitely. And he was like, have you driven a record before? Nope, but I can learn. And so went in, I applied. I think they took it as like a joke. And I YouTube everything. If I don't know how to do something, you can bet your ass I'm gonna find out how to do it. Eventually, like, I'm gonna figure out a way to get it done. And so when I went in for my interview, I think it was just normally like it was a joke to them. And there's no way a girl can do this. And so he threw me to the wolves. There was an ice storm that came in, and he put me in that record, and he said, go get it then. If you think you can do this, go get it. And I did it for, years. And then being in the tow trucking business, because I didn't do like repos or things like that. Like, a lot of people think of a record driver as a repo driver. And there are some that are like that. But like, I worked a lot of crashes. And so the crashes, I've always wanted to be a firefighter. It just never was in the cards for me. I had two small babies, trying to go to the fire academy. I had no help, nobody to lean on. I was running based off of daycare hours. So trying to get accepted in the fire academy was just unethical. And I did apply at one point, but they didn't even accept my application because I didn't lie about my job history. And I put that I was a stripper on my job history. So she didn't even accept my application. She just threw it in the trash. And so I just let it go. And then when I was driving a tow truck, I worked this crash, and it was horrific. And when I went home, I was actually covered in the victim's blood after the cleanup. And at that point, I realized that I needed to do something different. Like, I wanted to try fire. I wanted to be on the other side. And so I started studying. I started doing everything. I worked out super hard. Finally got accepted into the fire academy. And I think at one point during all of that, I was going to try to pursue fire and be an artist full time. And so I left driving a tow truck to be an artist full time. But at the time, like, I couldn't make any money at it. I didn't know how to network very well, and just having issues selling. So I ended up started waitressing again, just so I could focus on school, because I knew that, like, once I became a firefighter, I could provide a better life for my kids. better insurance. And with Chloe, my daughter has medical issues. And so I just knew that like insurance was going to be better. Everything was going to be better. I just needed to do this for them. And so I sat down, a conversation with them at Estella's Cafe here in town, and was like, all right, guys, this is it. Like, I'm going to quit driving a tow truck. I'm going to try to be an artist full time. If that doesn't work, I'll do something else, but I got to do something different. I want to be a firefighter. And so, long story short, got accepted into the fire academy, got out. It's weird how God has different plans for our lives than we think we have plans. Like we may have plans, but they're not our plans. And we don't know that until later in life. And so I think art for me has always come really easy, like the process of art and the process of just like everything art was just so easy. But with fire, it was so hard to obtain. I was beating my brains out trying to make this work. But then I would do art and it would just flow so easily and nicely. And so after I got out of the academy, I did a little fire in Colorado whenever I was up there, and then came back home and just busted my butt trying to get on with the department here. And it's not easy because those physical agility tests are brutal. And finally got hired on with the department. And when I got the library, and I was still doing art full time. Like that was my main side hustle at the point at last year when I was busting my butt trying to get on with the department. And when I got awarded the library project, that's when I was kind of forced to make a decision, like, what's more important, art or fire? And I wanted to just be at home with my kids and be around them a lot more. I've always worked 2 or 3 full-time jobs, and I just wanted to be with them, which is crazy because I still work a lot, but at least I'm working at home. But so I made that decision to put it on the back burner, see where God's going to take me in art, and just see what happens, because I still have a little bit of time. If I want to go back to the department, I can, because I've still got all my certifications. But this is what I want to be doing for the rest of my life, this right here. And so I made that decision. I felt super guilty about it, like so guilty. I was like, man, I worked my butt off and I'm just going to let it go. You know, I'm just going to walk away from it. But realistically, you know, it's crazy how this right here makes up for that. But I don't know how to explain it. I just did it. It's just, you hit that point, you do it.
Right. And I think your faith and hope in, you know, God's plan or the universe, however you want to look at that or analyze that, is very strong, right? And it has been something that's kind of carried you throughout your life and, you know, been a consistent for you. Do you tell us about how this opportunity came about for this huge project that you just worked on? You just briefly mentioned there, the public art installation at the local library.
Well, it's kind of funny. I was working standby at a concert when this happened. So, of course, I was still doing EMS and fire. And so I was working standby. And an artist contacted me that I've been following for a long time. She contacted me on Instagram and was like, hey, can you call me? And I was kind of in between stuff at the concert. So I was like, sure, I'll call her right now. So I called her and she was like, hey, I've got this project we need a sculptor on. And I love your work. And I never really made anything that big before, something of that size or magnitude. But I'm always up for the challenge, of course. And so I went to a meeting like a few days later with her and like just kind of pulled out some ideas that I had, like not really knowing a whole lot about the project, pulled out some ideas that I had, and they loved them and we ran with it. And then after a few months of like this grueling process of just trying to get everything lined out and panned out, because it's a huge project, we got it approved with the city and built the biggest sculpture of my life.
And tell us about it. What is it? Describe it for those who haven't seen it.
Well, there's 3 install pieces at the library. So I did these cutouts of Mary Poppins and like 4 little bebopping kids that are like following her into the library. and those were all cut out of 4x8 sheets of 3/16, which I have a hilarious story about that the cutouts. So if anybody knows metal, 4x8 sheets of 3/16 is brutally heavy, like stupid heavy. And so after I got finished with the cutouts and I installed them, I still had one sheet left that was extra. And I was like, awesome, I can make something out of this, right? So it was laying on the ground in my shop and it weighs a lot. I was like, well, I can squat 300 pounds easy at the gym. I could pick this thing up, no big deal. So I did. I picked it up and leaned it up against my shop table. I was like, all right, I did it. Well, I bent down to pick up a piece of metal, like scrap that was on the ground, and it like rolled over on top of me. And I was like trapped under it. But I never let go of my phone. This is the funny part, is I never let go of my phone. I held on to my phone the whole time. So I'm like calling everybody. Chloe had left. And so she had left. So I was home alone in my shop. I was like calling everybody I knew. Nobody would answer the phone. And then all of a sudden, Chloe walks into the shop. Mind you, I'm kind of accident prone sometimes. And so she walks into the shop and she just stands there like this and shakes her head. And she's like, how did you get under there? And I was like, well, so the thing is,
oh my gosh,
we're probably going to have to call somebody to get this off. So she tried to lift it. I was like, girl, you ain't going to be able to lift this. And so eventually I ended up having to call the fire department.
Oh my gosh.
Get it off me, which is such a funny story because I didn't want to call dispatch because I know how annoying it is to call dispatch with stupid requests. So I just called the department that's right down the street from me. And I was like, yo, is this the station by the college? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, so this is the thing. I'm kind of trapped under a piece of metal. And he goes, is this Rae? And I was like, all right. Yes, it is. And he's like, we'll be there in a minute.
Oh
so
my
I'm thinking, yo, they're just going to pull up in their little truck. We're going to lift this off. We're going to be good. No, they paraded the engine, the ambulance, everything.
Oh no.
On my street. So of course all my neighbors already know that like this crazy artist lives here, you know, and so now I've got ambulances, a fire truck, everything out front, and they kind of surrounded me, laughed for a minute, and lifted it off. It was kind of funny, but so that was the first install project. Was the cutouts, and those are in the front foyer, and then there's a set of metal wings on the earth, which Cal painted. And so the wings are on the side of the earth or whatever. And those are like selfie wings. And so those got added last minute because I made those in between the project. And they loved them so much. They wanted to put them on the building. So they put those on the building. And then the monster of all was the hot air balloon. And the hot air balloon was so massive, and my shop's pretty massive. It was so massive that I had to build it in my driveway because the balloon size was just huge. And initially, the balloon was supposed to only be like half that size and attached to the building. But of course, I go 100% in everything that I do. I always have to go above and beyond. So I was like, let's make this thing 3D and stick it right in the middle of the concrete, you know? And so like all of the materials used for this hot air balloon are all oil-filled scrap materials. So I just started collecting materials, putting out mass calls for scrap materials online, and came up with some incredible pieces that just fit right into it. And so, how fitting it is to have a piece made out of oil-filled scrap material in the middle of the oil field, which was kind of cool. So when I built the balloon, built it in my driveway. So I was climbing all over it in my driveway, welding the thing together. And then the basket, which is all oil-filled pipe, I forget when you add metal to metal and continue to keep adding metal to metal, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And so I built the basket inside my shop, like right square in the middle of my shop, which was kind of funny trying to get out of here, but it was really important to me that like kids with disabilities and the kids that have like they're in wheelchairs and stuff like that can get in, and this is very interactive for them too, because you always see like the kids that are special needs off to the side of projects like this, and I didn't want that. I wanted them to be right in the middle of it. I wanted them to be a part of it, so I made it really short so that way you could see over it in a wheelchair, no matter how big you are. I made it 3-sided so that way they could just come right in and come right out. There's plenty of room behind it so everybody can maneuver around it and like just be in it and be fun in it. And so now it's this massive 30-foot hot air balloon sculpture out front, and it's crazy. That thing, whew, that was a nightmare to build. Not necessarily, pretty much a nightmare to build. I'm not gonna lie.
How does it feel to see people interact with it now that it's complete?
It's wild that it's mine. It's wild that like sometimes I am my own worst critic, and I'm very, very hard on myself. And so it's wild to see people in something that's mine, and it's like I did it. Like, you know, I think that's the wildest part. I love everybody's selfies. Everybody's always tagging me on Instagram and their little selfies, and I try to share them as much as I possibly can. But like it's just wild to me. Like, it still hasn't set in. It's like it's been a few months since the project's been finished, and it still hasn't set in yet.
So, you know, we've talked about how unforgiving metal work can be, right? It doesn't give you a lot of leeway to like do something like paint where you can kind of go back in and rework it. It's very final, your decisions that you make in this process. Has the work been cathartic to you, and has it allowed you to work through some of the trauma? And has it brought you to a place of forgiveness?
Yes, it does. It kind of goes back and forth. So I think as a victim of violence and abuse and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, like we, even though we feel like we're in a good place sometimes we catch ourselves taken back. And like I can go through life and think like, man, I don't even remember who that person is anymore. And then I'll have days where I'm like, I feel like I'm 14 again, running away from home, and which puts me in this place, and I stay in it for a minute. You know, it takes me a minute to come out of it. And art and like being in here is like a battlefield for me. It's like where I come in here and I can finally like just work it out and get it out, and like it's here, even if it's just something I'm destroying or not destroying or building or whatever. It's just my only way to like really work it out. And so like it brings me to a place of peace, but also too sometimes it brings that dark hole out of me too, because I'll start creating it. Like just I'm in here, I'm in music, I'm like just deep in all this thought, and I'm in here like for hours by myself and just constantly like running through all this stuff in my head, and I'll like stumble upon like a memory that I haven't thought about in a long time. Something triggers something, and it just like it puts you back in this place. So there's a good balance between how art makes me forgive and helps me forgive and find peace, but also where that dark hole kind of brings it out, but also I create like badass art from it. So I mean, like it's a good healthy balance. Sometimes not always healthy, but like it's a really good balance in between the two of finding forgiveness and also working things out that maybe I'd suppressed and still suppressed to this day to get it all out.
If you could go back and tell that young 15-year-old what the future looks like, what would you tell her?
Don't give up. Like, just don't give up. There were so many times like I just wanted to like just end it all and just be done with it, and that eventually there's light at the end of the tunnel, even though you feel like you're just constantly drowning, or you're constantly just trying to like keep up. Like eventually you'll get there and just keep holding on. I think that is for anybody realistically in life. Like you just feel like you're drowning sometimes and there's no way out. But just know everything you do in every situation you're in is completely 100% temporary. Even if it lasts a day, if it lasts a week, a year, 10 years, it's still temporary. It's not always going to be like that. And I always thought my life was always going to be like that. And even still up to last year, you know, like I went through a really hard time leaving Colorado and all of that kind of stuff. Like I had this, like, I call it my Britney 2007 moment. And
we did an interview right in the middle of that.
Do what?
We did an interview right in the middle of that, if you remember.
We did do an interview right in the middle of that, which was wild. And so, like, I had this, like, I think, like, everybody deserves to have one moment like that in their life. And I had that, and, like, I thought I had it figured out, but I was just digging myself into this hole that was going to take me a really long time to kind of pull myself out of. And last year, I worked my life away in the shop. Like, that's how, like, you know, I was telling you that balance of, like, forgiveness and, you know, addressing things that you don't address, you know. And so last year it was like that. And I was in here every single day, closed off from the world. I didn't want to deal with nobody. And everybody knows that I love people. I'm an extreme extrovert. I have to be around people to thrive. And last year I didn't. I shut everybody out, like completely. Just, I abandoned all my friends. I like closed myself off in here, and I would just listen to this music on repeat every single day, just create and create and create and create. And I would like wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I would come out here, I would create all day, and then I would go back inside at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I would sleep for like 2 hours, and I'd come out here and do it again. And I didn't realize how unhealthy even that was. Like, you can be a creative, but like there's a point where you've got to like, hey, take a chill pill. It's okay. And I did that up until July of last year, before I finally woke up and I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Yes, it benefited me in my art later and now that I did that, but like I was in here, my kids were gone for 4th of July, and I realized that like I'm still in here working. I'm about to work through another holiday just because I'm sad and I'm tired of doing that. And so I packed a bag and I just drove, and see where I ended up. I ended up sitting in the river for 3 days by myself, drinking sangrias. I decided to get a hotel on the Riverwalk, and I ended up singing a song with somebody across the street, you know, and like I got a bunch of new tattoos, and, you know, and then I went to Austin, and, you know, just, I decided that, you know, I needed to live more and stop working so much. And because I came to the conclusion more or less that work is a drug to me. Like a lot of people have addictions, and my addiction may not never have been alcohol or drugs, but you can find addictions in other things. And work was my drug. It was where I went to escape, where I didn't want to deal with life. I didn't want to come to the conclusion that like maybe I'd messed up and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And so I decided that I needed to kind of wean myself off of it a little bit and enjoy life a little more, enjoy my kids a little more, and enjoy myself a little more, and cut myself some slack, because I'm kind of doing this on my own. I'm kind of figuring it all out by myself and with no help. And so, yeah, it's just, last year was rough, and it's crazy we had an interview during all of that. I need to go back and listen to that interview.
I remember when we recorded it, you know, you were in a very different situation. By the time we came to release it, all hell broke loose. Right?
Oh my God, yes.
And I remember reaching out to you
after that.
Right, and I remember saying, I don't think we should put it out, but or asking you, should we put it out? And is there a certain part of it we should put out? and we did, and we ran it without that big section where you were at that time. But I kept the recording for posterity, so maybe one day we can listen to it again, and you can
I
reflect.
know. Isn't it wild how like life works out? Like even just from the time that I met you at my very first art show with you guys, and versus what my life is now, like, gosh, man, so much stuff has happened. And I think I've hit rock bottom at least twice during that.
And your very first art show, you won the award for excellence.
Yeah. It's just crazy. It's crazy. So crazy.
It's amazing.
Man.
So we are going to take some questions today. If you have any questions, just add them into the comments. And I guess I just want to know, Rae, two things. You know, you talk about this relationship with your mother, and you know, really feeling the elements of that today. But what you are today yourself is an amazing mother, right? I think you have to give yourself a pat on the back because you have raised two wonderful children, and that has come with a lot of challenges. And your children have had particularly some challenging health issues. What do you hope that they go into the world with?
I didn't hear the last part.
What do you hope that they go into the world with as a result of the relationship that you have with them?
I hope that, like, I think the reason why I work so hard now and like everything that I do now is I just want them to have the best life like possible. And I want something completely different for them as like to grow up. And I want to leave all of this behind for them so that they, especially Chloe, she never has to put herself in a situation that I've always put myself in, which is depending on somebody else. And I didn't I don't want her to be like that. And so I don't know. I just hope that they have something way better than me. Like, I don't know how to explain it and put it in words. I wish there was sometimes I could put things into words, but I don't know how to put it in words. But watch, as soon as we get off here, I'm like, man, I should have said that. Okay, but no, like, I just hope that they live their best life, and that's what I'm trying to do, is give them their best life. And I know sometimes, like, I put work first, but it's not by choice. It's more just because our survival was like the most important thing to me. And so I just hope that they know I did it for them. I do everything for them.
I think that they will know that 100% just because of your superhuman spirit, as Jen commented right here. You're amazing. What is next for you, Rae? What are your aspirations, and dreams for your future?
I think just to be undeniably happy. I think, which is crazy because happiness isn't a destination. You know, it's a mindset. And so I think I want to look back on my life, and like when it's my time to go, like I want to go and just be okay. Like with everything that's around me. Like I want to go thinking, man, if there was something I could have done. I don't want to go thinking I could have done something different. I want to go thinking, man, I did everything the best that I could, 100%. And so I think just to be happy. Like I don't care about riches. I don't care about the fame. I don't care about none of that stuff. I just want little pieces of me left everywhere. And I want people to look at my art and think, man, I would have loved her. Or, you know, I would have fell in love with her or whatever. Just see my personality and who I am through that, and just be happy. That's it. Like happy, like actually genuinely 100% truly happy, if that makes sense.
And I think that there are so many that have been inspired by your story, particularly those who've been going through challenges. So I think your legacy is just what you can pass along from your experience to yourself.
I hope so.
All right, so let's go to some of these comments and questions. Okay. Leo said that bird is building a nest in the background. Yeah, there was a lot of activity in the background. How's he doing? And tell everybody what his name this bird.
Y'all want to see him? He's nice and warm. Here, let me pull him out. So I kind of didn't want to name him until he got a little bigger. Wait, hang on, where's the camera? I don't want him to fall. Can y'all see him?
Oh my gosh, he's so tiny.
He's so tiny.
A little critter.
I'm so tired too from feeding him so much.
Well, you gotta keep us updated on his progress.
He just pooped in my hand.
Live TV, folks.
At least he's pooping. I was so excited whenever he pooped yesterday for like the first time. All right.
So we have a comment here from James Dingman. Sorry, James. I really appreciate the honesty, and presentation. You are very real, and the work on your Instagram and Facebook pages is great.
I love people.
Okay. Here's a great question. What's it like living in the middle of nowhere in Texas? Are you the opportunity of big dreams?
I get a lot of people kind of hate this little area, but I love it here. Like, I mean, I went to Colorado, right? And so I've lived in the mountains and like probably one of the most beautiful parts of the country. I've lived in Dallas-Fort Worth, all over Dallas-Fort Worth, moved around like a gypsy up there. So I've seen everything. I travel a lot too. I went to Chicago last year and LA. I went to a bunch of places last year. And so it's super like this right here is just home. This right here is just home. And so, sorry, my neighbor, people are stopping by. I'm on a live. Sorry. This is what I get for being in my shop. So like this is just home. And like just the people here. I love going to Walmart and like just talking to everybody and like, you know, just being around everybody. And I don't know, it's hard. This is home. Besides just home, it's just, I love it here. Probably never leave.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that you do a lot of random acts of kindness. When you just mentioned Walmart, I remember there was a recent post that you did where you purchased somebody's groceries for them, and you would stand outside and give free hugs. And I've seen you give cookies away.
Oh yeah, the macaroons.
I remember that.
In Houston. That was so much fun. I met this lady, and she was 18 at the time. She was young too. She had a little baby named Chloe.
Wow.
It was so crazy. And she was just running away from a broken past too. And she ended up in a shelter down there. And so like you meet so many incredible people just being out there and open and like, you know, like just hugging people. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's awesome.
You have a good heart, Renee. You have a good heart, Rae. All right. So this is something that I think we need to discuss. So how would you define a feminist? Yeah, when you said that you don't identify as a feminist, I want to know why as well.
Ooh, good question. Why
do you feel that is a negative?
So I'm not a feminist by any means. I don't claim to be a feminist. I could be. I don't even know. But so the definition for me, like everybody has like their own belief system or whatever, but I think it's just equality. I had posted something back when it was a few years ago, I think. Feminists were like naked, like protesting, like doing other feminine things that have to involve feminine things without going into great detail. But like I believe that to be a true woman of power, you do it with class. And like you make a statement in a way of just like, you know, this is me. This is what I believe. I literally work in a man's industry. And so I've always worked in a man's industry. So like to prove yourself as a woman, but stand up for what you believe in, but you do it with class. I think that's what a true feminist is somebody that stands up for what they believe in with class. And I try to do that as much as possible for, you know, all of our, you know, lovely welder ladies and everybody around. want to set a good example for them. And so I don't believe that you're making a statement by taking your top off and losing your bra and like being naked running around the street with a sign says I'm a feminist. I don't believe that that's necessarily a feminist, but I also don't really follow a whole lot of politics. So, and I try to stay away from that because it's a negative mindset, negative life. And so I try to stay away from any of that kind of stuff, but that's just, so I don't know exactly what they're fighting for too. So I don't know if that really doesn't really help my case here, but I think you're doing something with class and fighting for what you believe in with class. And I believe people are going to listen to you when you do it that way versus other ways.
Well, I will say that I identify in the sense that I believe that women should have equal rights to men.
Yes. See, but you do things with class. You have such a poise about you. Like, it's almost intimidating, but not. Like, the thing about you, and this is what I love about you. I'm going to get kind of deep into your life right now. This is what I love about you. When you walk into a room, everybody shuts up and want to listen to what you have. They want to listen to what you have to say. And like when I watched you walk around the Conception Art Show and everybody was just hanging on every word that you said, like that is a feminist with class. And that is like a woman of power, not a woman of power, but like people like will listen to you. And that I feel like is like the ultimate like goals right there, is to be in a room where people just listen to you because they have so much respect for you. And you've paved that way for females and like being that, you know, as a feminist. But I don't know if that makes sense, but I just love that about you, that like you walk into a room and everybody just wants to listen to what you have to say because it's going to be important. Whatever comes out of your mouth is going to be important. And so, and it's going to change somebody's life in that room or in that wherever we're at. I love that. Absolutely love that about you. So,
well, first of all, you're too kind, and thank you. And second of all, I think it's just a British accent, to be honest.
No, not at all.
People just think that I'm smart because of this accent. That's all it is.
I like, even when I watch these with you, like I just hang on every word you say because you're just such an incredible human. You are, and like you're such an incredible human, and you've overcome a lot too. And the fact that you use art and other people's art as a way to let them tell them their stories to you, like just so much respect for you. I love you so much, like so much respect for you.
I love you right back, and I hugely respect and admire you.
You're a powerful woman. I aspire to be like you. That's all I want to be is Rachel when I grow
up. All right, so there's a couple of comments here. There's a lot of love going on in the feed right now. James says, never mind the question about the middle of nowhere. You are an irresistible force. I get it. Thanks, James. We agree.
Awesome. I don't know if you should read these comments because my face just gets all red.
Here's our Jen. Rae, you are amazing. Never give up and remember that you are a superhuman. Agreed. Jan says, are you open to understanding more about feminism?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Like, I don't, like I said, I don't really follow a whole lot of politics and a whole lot of like that kind of stuff. Yes, I like to know what's going on in the world, but like I kind of put myself in a little bubble, and because like unless it affects my world here, then I try not to let it affect me. Like people get so wrapped up in some of this stuff sometimes, and it just takes over their whole life, and it takes over everything that they are. And like, so I kind of just like built this little bubble. And some of my friends say that it's because I'm naive or like I don't really like, you know, that kind of thing. But like realistically, it's just, if it's not necessarily directly affecting who I am, my babies, my little life here, I try not to get wrapped up and lost in all of that kind of stuff, if that makes sense. So, but I'm definitely open to it, especially being a woman in a man's industry. Like, I want to try to, of course, like I run a little welding class here. Granted, because of COVID-19, I can't really do it, but I love working with other women. So I do try to do my part. So I have this little welding class that I do in here. It's called the Be Your Own Hero class. And they don't get certifications because I'm not like a certified instructor, but it's more of a confidence building class. So they can come in here and they can kind of play with my equipment and like learn how to weld and fabricate. And I teach them how to change their oil and how to do basic house maintenance, things like that, like stuff to give them confidence. And most of these these women that come in here are victims of sexual violence. And sexual violence is something that hangs over you. It's a cloud. It's just here all the time. No matter what you do, no matter how happy you are, no matter how great things are going in your life, that little cloud always tends to have this tendency to rain on you every once in a while to remind you, hey, you're still a victim. And I hate that. I hate that. I deal with it a lot and it affects all of my relationships. And so I want these girls to come in here and like have the strength to overcome that. And so I want them to play with fire as a way to give themselves something to overcome. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like they kind of let that little cloud go away because they're more powerful than their cloud, if that makes sense. And so I want them to feel like they can do anything. Like I want them to have like, man, I don't need a man. I don't need this. Mind you, I love my boyfriend, but I don't need a man. I don't need none of that. Like I can take care of myself. And if I can do it myself, and I want them to understand, you don't have to turn to being a victim of your environment or a product of your environment, like stripping and prostitution and, falling in love with an abusive man or any of those kind of things that like, you can get your little ass up. We're going to get you a trade. We're going to teach you some badass stuff and you're going to excel. And then whenever you get that job and when you get to that place, like when somebody does come into your life, you won't have to have them there because you need them there. You will have them there because you want them there. And if they leave you tomorrow, honey, you can still take care of yourself. You can still, you can still succeed. You can still be powerful. You can still be a mighty little woman that you are. And so I think that's like my view of feminism, or like trying to do my part, is like these young women come in here and they're broken and I don't want them to be broken anymore because no woman deserves to feel broken by any means, especially if they've been broken by a man. And no offense, I love men. I promise. No offense, guys. No offense. But like I want them to know, like, you're a powerful human being despite what you've gone through. And so let's take life and like make it worth living. So
Rae, you are amazing. You're a force, and you are one of my sheroes. I love you. Thank you so much. And let's let everybody know where they can learn more about you and find you online.
Yeah. And the class, okay, so if you are interested in the class or you have somebody that's interested in class too, once the COVID-19 stuff goes off, I don't really advertise it. I don't really talk a whole lot about it, but you just message me directly if you have somebody in mind that you would like me to reach out to, or if you want somebody, like, it's more local, I think, versus like having people come all around. But I love visitors. So even if you're just kind of, intimidated by welding and you don't really want to, get involved in it, but you just want to hang out with me in the shop, dude, I love people. I love visitors. Please come and visit me. All my shop doors are open all the time. Everybody's welcome. And also I have some really cool installation art that I'm working on outside of my shop, including a 20-foot wingspan of metal wings that are on my sea container outside that I'm been working on. So come take selfies, hang out, let's get some coffee. We'll talk about life and anything else you want to talk about. So if you have that, you can message me on Instagram or on Facebook, one or the other.
And what is your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is just my name. It's RaeRipple. And then it's the same way with my Facebook. And then I also just got on TikTok. So you can follow your girl on TikTok too. I don't know about all the dances yet. I'm still learning them.
But we're gonna get there eventually. So if y'all want to see that super awkwardness, you're more than welcome to follow me on TikTok too. And it's also the same. It's Rae Ripple. So all of my social media handles are just my first and last name.
Amazing. All right. Well, Rae, thank you. Mwah. Sending you lots of love.
Yes,
And
I
we
love
love you.
So much.
We're excited.
And everybody, go follow Conception Arts, yo. Like they're the best in the market. They're like everybody. They help so many artists just learn how to thrive and sell the art and market and all of those things. And y'all paved the way for me. So, and this was years ago in Houston, Texas. So I love you guys, and everybody go follow them too.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're super happy to have you here. Super amazed and thrilled to spend this time with you, Rae. And we will be back tomorrow. We have Ron English joining us tomorrow. It's going to be another great session. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.